Hello and welcome to Brands Hatch for the opening rounds of the 2019 BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Series. The cars are about to line up on the grid ahead of our first of three 20-minute encounters here on the 1.2 mile Brands Hatch Indy circuit. James Kell and Simon Fleet line up on the front row for race one, with Sam Bailey and Javier Brook on the second row. Joseph Marshall-Burks with Alex Miller on row three, whilst Bradley Kent and Jeremy Crook share the fourth row of the grid. Rounding out the top 10 are Declan Lee and Clyde Powells ahead of Chris Webster and Matt Pickford. George Grant and Dale Crowsley are next, then Jake Swan-Dixon and Jim Hart on the eighth row. Cameron Thompson, Darren Kell, Russ Lyndsay, Liz Walton and Jude Worley round out the 21-car grid. Great to see so many drivers coming and competing in this first round of the championship. The MX-5 Super Series going into its second season this year. It is not a championship, there are no points to worry about, just three good, hard races, and the racing does tend to be very, very good indeed. So the Mark III MX-5s line up on the grid, awaiting the start of the opening race of the season, which gets underway now. Lights out, away we go, and who gets the best start? Down towards Paddock Hill Bend, James Kell and Simon Fleet shared the front row. James Kell, who really improved towards the end of last year, started on pole, and he will lead into turn one, and Sam Bailey's up the inside there for second place, but he's sideways. Sam Bailey spins in front of the pack. Oh no, he's collected by one car, two cars, three cars pile on in. What a shame for Sam Bailey. We ride on board here with the number 11 car of Declan Lee, who's going to find a spinning Sam Bailey right in front of him. That's a big old hit for Declan, making his debut in the series, and sadly not the way he wanted his first race to get underway. The field, though, what remains of it, is making its way through Graham Hill Bend. There's a puncture there for car number 70, Javier Brook. That's a shame, because he started fourth on the grid, and unsurprisingly, the red flag is out, and, well, that is a shame. It's not how we wanted the season to start here at Brands Hatch, but unfortunately cold tyres. It's fairly chilly here this morning at Brands Hatch, and I think the low temperatures, the low track temperatures and ambient temperatures mean that on cold tyres Sam Bailey spun, and unfortunately the rest of the field had absolutely nowhere to go. Well, take two for the opening round of the MX-5 Super Series then here at Brands Hatch. James Kell and Simon Fleet once again start from row number one. It was Kell that led on the initial start. Will it be the same case this time? Well, no, Simon Fleet actually gets a better start than him on this occasion. Good start also made there by Jeremy Crook, that was, from the outside of what should have been row four, with a few cars missing in front of him. He'll actually be third into the first corner. Now, hold your breath. Let's hope everyone gets through cleanly this time. So far, so good. But it's cement dust down in the bottom of the dip there, where the stricken car of Sam Bailey came to rest, but they are all safely through this time. There's Matt Pickford in the distinctive liveried yellow sort of take on the Martini car there on the outside line. And we make our way now back towards the end of the first lap of the race, and James Kell leading the way. James, who really improved his pace towards the second half of last year, competing in both Super Series and Super Cup, and had some really, really good pace at the season finale for the Super Series at Donington Park last year. This year, he's actually making the step up into the Ginetta GT4 Super Cup, supporting the British Touring Car Championship, and he's using this as a bit of practice ahead of their opening round, which takes place on the same circuit in a few weeks' time. Hopefully, we can tempt James back for a few more races in Super Series this year. He has been the class of the field so far this weekend, setting pole position by 0.3 of a second over Simon Fleet. Simon running well in second place as well. Now, there's lots of battling going on here. This is Bradley Kent in the white and orange number 44 car, and Joseph Marshall-Burks in the number 99 car trying to go around the outside. Now, Marshall-Burks started fifth, whilst Bradley Kent was seventh. They're now fourth and third, respectively, with other people's issues, but Kent on for a podium here. In his second season of MX-5 racing, competed in the Super Cup last year, and had a trying debut season, I think it's fair to say, a trying opening race of the season as well there for one car which runs out wide. Chris Webster, I think that was, the number 85, that went trawling through the gravel trap at Clearways and will lose all of its momentum and fall pretty much to the back of the field. He rejoins with one car still behind him, not that many more. I guess it is the 85 of Chris Webster, who started 11th on the grid, but not how he wanted to attack Clearways on that occasion. Fight for third position here, and Joseph Marshall-Burks on the inside of Bradley Kent. He goes through, so Marshall-Burks onto the podium now provisionally, and that is Jeremy Crook, the fast-starting Jeremy Crook, who was third into turn one and somehow has fallen behind both of these two. Let's see whether or not he can pick his way back onto the podium before the end of the race. Graham Hill Bend, Bradley Kent in the slipstream, trying to attack into Surtees, but Joseph Marshall-Burks will be trying to pull away now and close in on the group of cars in front of him. He won't be able to do that if he has to defend, though, and that's exactly what he did into Clearways. Runs a bit wide at the apex as a result, and Bradley Kent now gets back in the tow, in the wheel tracks of the 99 car in front. may well be about to try and relaunch an attack here into Paddock Hill Bend. Let's see the slipstream effect in these Mark III cars, if anything, is even more substantial than we see in their Mark I counterparts. Bradley Kent uses that to perfect advantage and goes straight back through on the inside of Paddock. We sort of saw that coming, but that was nonetheless a very impressive move. He's a bit sideways in the dip though, and Marshall Burks comes back at him. We've been here before, haven't we? Side by side once again into Druids, and it's Marshall Burks that goes back through. So that was 3 positional changes for third place in the space of a lap, and it's probably not going to be the last one either. Down the hill they go. And like Clive Powell's in the 15 car, the silver car that's closing in. Yes, it is. Clive Powell's making this a 4-car fight now for the bottom step of the podium, whilst the top 2 pull out a decent advantage over these 4 cars and over each other as well. James Kell getting away from Simon Fleet, who's getting away from this battle. Again, though, Marshall Burks has to defend slightly into clearways, but actually Bradley Kent outbreaks himself as well. And on this occasion, I don't think Bradley's going to be able to attack into Paddock Hill Bend. If anything, he'll have to watch his mirrors, because Jeremy Crook is a bit closer to him now than he is to Marshall Burks in front. Across the start-finish line we go once again. It's already been an entertaining and slightly dramatic at times opening race of the season for the MX-5 Super Series. We did start with 21 cars. We no longer have 21 cars running, but hopefully we'll get most of them out again throughout the rest of the weekend. 1 race today and 2 tomorrow. Slightly more mild weather forecast for tomorrow as well, so tyre wear not such an issue today, but tomorrow that might be something the drivers have to watch out for. There's the 15 car of Clive Powell's, who is a very experienced Mark I MX-5 racer, and using the Super Series as a sort of stepping stone into Mark III racing, because in the past you would go straight from the Mark I Championship into the highly competitive MX-5 Super Cup, whereas on this occasion, now with the Super Series in play, you have this sort of middle ground. If you want to move into a Mark III, but you're not sure whether you're ready to go straight into the top level of Mark III racing, come and have a go in the Super Series and do a few races, do a full season maybe, and then maybe make the step up to Super Cup or maybe even elsewhere, as James Kell has been able to do. Nice battle going on here a bit further back. That's the number 17 car. Trying to make a move. Lyndsay trying to go around the outside into Paddock Hill Bend. I think it was Dale Crowsley who was trying to get past. In the end, he's actually going to be under pressure from Chris Webster into Druids, and not far behind them is Javier Brook. Now, Javier Brook started 4th. I don't think he took the restart in 4th in the Bora Motorsport car, though. Remember, we saw he had a puncture after that first attempted start. Presumably got involved in contact with Sam Bailey's rotating car. I think maybe the damage was so significant that he had to miss the restart, or at least wasn't able to take up his original starting position. But as they go down into Surtees, it's all getting very congested indeed, because one of the other Bora Motorsport cars was trying to buy into all of the action as well. So close battling here, right up and down the order, as often is the case in the MX-5 Super Series. Clearways along the start-finish straight, and these first 4 cars in this group now being led by Jim Hart, the 27 car, starting now to pull away ever so slightly. Brakes, and Russ Lyndsay has a big dive up the inside. That was a nice move. I didn't think he was close enough to Dale Crowsley to go through, but he has gone through, and that opens the door for Chris Webster to follow him. So 2 places lost for Crowsley, and in fact Webster now has ideas of going around the outside of Russ Lyndsay as well. Now you can go right around the outside here at Druids, all sideways there for Javier Brook, who's having a day to forget already, isn't he? Back to what I was saying about Chris Webster. If you go around the outside at Druids, you get the inside for Graham Hill Bend, and it's risky, but when it works, you can gain the place. That's exactly what he's done. So 2 places gained in half a lap there, and Russ Lyndsay, having just got past Dale Crowsley, now finds himself on the dirty side of the road, and so Dale goes back through. So in the end, an awful lot of effort to go absolutely nowhere there for Russ Lyndsay, but it's worked out quite well for Chris Webster. Now Lyndsay has got a little bit of pressure behind him from Cameron Thompson in the other blue car, the blue and orange car, number 5. There is James Kell, though, your race leader, runaway race leader, really, pulling away now from Simon Fleet in second, who's been caught by Joseph Marshall Burks. Jude Worley already going a lap down in the number 12 car, saying, well, out of the way, and almost getting elbowed out of the way there, I think she did, didn't she, by, that was very close indeed. Clive Powell's trying to go around the outside, and as those 2 cars were side by side inside of Jude, then she sort of got forced out of the way, really. She didn't have much chance to get out of the way. But Jude's relatively inexperienced, and lap times proving as much in the qualifying session, but I'm sure if she gets another full season under her belt, her pace should improve. A brief glimpse there of another one of the Bora Motorsport cars. That was car number 7, Alex Miller, who started 6th on the grid, so he too got caught out, I think, with that red flag incident, and just had to take the restart a bit further back than he'd have liked. Through clearways. A lot of Bora Motorsport cars here towards the tail end of the field, all grouping themselves together. There's a car in the pit lane which looks suspiciously like Bradley Kent. I think it is Bradley Kent that's in the pit, so that's a shame. Bradley was running well in that top 5 battle. Just to the left of the screen there, you can see the white and orange headlighted car. That is definitely Bradley Kent, so his race is done. Jim Hart here, dicing away with the 116 of Dale Crowsley. Dale Crowsley again making his debut in the championship, and the novice cross on the back of his car means he's got very little racing experience. Alex Miller's on the grass. They're all getting a bit tail happy out of Druids, aren't they? And Alex Miller may lose a place here. No, not quite to his teammate Xavier Brook. Keep straight, they go again, and in front it's side by side. Russ Lyndsay's got Cameron Thompson up the inside of him, and Thompson will go through. So Cameron Thompson picks up another place there, and Russ Lyndsay all out of shape. That will lose him momentum, and are the Boreham cars close enough to take advantage? No, they're not. It is still Miller in front of Brook. Brook will be a bit frustrated about this because he started so high up the order. Oh, Jim Hart is off. Wow, that was close. Jim Hart spins into the pit lane. I don't think I've ever seen that before, and well, that was a mammoth moment, and how no one collected him I will never know, but Jim Hart with an enormous spin at the final corner. He went out into the gravel, and rather than bailing out of it and lifting off the throttle and just sort of trudging back onto the track, he floored the throttle, tried to drive his way through the issue, and ended up spinning onto the track, and that was very, very fortunate that no one else was collected in that. Jim Hart, I think he's moved some of the plastic markers on the entrance to pit lane, but it could have been an awful lot worse. Whether he's able to rejoin from there, we'll have to wait and see, but that was a heart-stopping moment for those who were coming up behind him, including this little trio, and it looks as though this time Alex Miller might be up the inside of Russ Lyndsay. No, he still can't get through. Cameron Thompson, though, having got past Lyndsay, has already latched onto the back of Dale Crowsley's 116 car, so those two pulling away now from the 3 behind. The Boreham Motorsport cars at play, almost identical, apart from Alex Miller's gold roll cage as opposed to the black of Xavier Brook. I think Xavier was going through there. We're here with George Grant, looking at Matt Pickford in front of us. These two are now fighting for a position inside the top 6 with everyone else's dramas, and that was very, very sideways indeed for Matt Pickford. Can't miss that car in the crowd, can you? Which was sort of the point of having such a bright, in-your-face paint scheme. Matt told the story last year of how his better half was complaining that she couldn't see the car, couldn't pick it out very easily out on the circuit. So he said, right, I'm going to paint it yellow. And he did, and it's one of the more distinctive liveries in a field full of very, very well-prepared cars, it must be said. George Grant there in one of the Clapham North liveried machines behind. George really does enjoy his racing, and it's great to see him a little bit closer to the sharp end here as well. This is what comes with experience. The more track time you get, the more races you do, the quicker, in theory, you should start to get. And George Grant starting to reap the rewards now of a couple of years' hard graft in the MX-5 Super Cup and the Super Series. He's one of many drivers who have done dual campaigns last year in both Super Cup and Super Series and tried to gain as much track time as possible. They go past Jim Hart, who is going rather slowly. I can't say I blame him, really, given the severity of the moment that he's just had. And George Grant there, as they go up the inside of car number 66 there to put a lap on it. George Grant tries to go around the outside of Matt Pickford, couldn't quite do it. That was Jake Swan-Dixon that was going a lap down. George Grant trying to take advantage of that to get past Pickford. He's quick off Graham Hill Bend again, though, and I think he's up the inside at Surtees. Is he brave enough to go through on the inside line? Yes, he is. So George Grant moves up another position, or does he? Pickford might come back in, but no, Grant has gone through. George Grant up a place, Matt Pickford down a place, but I think the battle's likely to resume. They seem fairly evenly matched on pace, it must be said. And indeed, in qualifying, they were separated by just a few hundredths of a second. Half a tenth of a second separated them in qualifying. Pickford qualified 12th and Grant 13th. And in fact now the 85 car of Chris Webster joining in the fun as well after his gravelly moment earlier on. So 3 cars now fighting away for 6th place, and Pickford, by virtue of going in on the tight line into Paddock Hill Bend, ends up running a little bit wide on the exit, and so Webster seizes the chance to dive up the inside on the run up Halewood Hill. And because it is such a steep uphill run to Druids, if you are slow off Paddock, it's compounded all the way up the hill. There's really very little Pickford could do there, so time to regroup, I think, for Matt in the 16 car, the sort of Martini-inspired livery. Let's see whether he can get past the Burgundy car in front of Chris Webster and then go after George Grant. George is trying to set sail and pull away from this lot, if at all possible, and go after the top 5, who are not a million miles in front of him. Jeremy Crook is his next target, a few seconds up the road. I don't think Chris Webster's going to let him go. Chris has got good pace here, just had a couple of little moments, little mistakes. And he's clearly got good speed. He's got really good speed in the slipstream. Look at that. You can really see the slipstream effect there across the start-finish line. He goes to the outside of George Grant into Paddock Hill Bend. George has the defensive inside line covered, though, and I think will hold on to the position. This is the fight for 2nd place. Simon Fleet versus Joseph Marshall Burks. Fleet has been very, very comfortably in second place all race long, really, but Marshall Burks has been slowly reeling him in, a tenth of a second here and there, and he's now right on the tail of another one of the more distinctively liveried cars, the traditional blue with the iconic pink wheels of Simon Fleet's number 21 machine. Jason Marshall Burks' car, they're very well prepared as well, very well turned out. I think they're about to put another lap on Jude Worley. Yes, they are. Jude is very good at noticing when the leaders are coming up behind her and staying out of the way, so I'm sure she will dutifully do so when they get there, which is likely to be very soon. Yep, there they go, up the inside of paddock, and she moves well out of the way. So Simon Fleet goes through in second, Marshall Burks goes through in third, and they're some way ahead now of the Jeremy Crook and Clive Powell's battle for fourth. I believe it's Clive ahead of Jeremy still at the moment. Downhill, on the brakes. New tarmac runoff area on the exit of Druids, and just there on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, but they've still got the MSV track limit sensors there. If you run out over them, it triggers an automatic, almost like a speed camera sort of thing, except it's a track limits camera, and it picks up the cars, takes a picture of them, which gets fired straight to the clerk, of course, and then when you go and try and argue your case after the race and say, no sir, I didn't exceed the track limits, there's photographic evidence to suggest that you did. James Kell, though, I'm sure, hasn't really had to push that hard that he's been exceeding track limits in this race. It's going to be a fairly comfortable victory in Mazda MX-5 racing terms, at least for James Kell. And this is the perfect practice for his Ginetta GT4 Super Cup debut in a few weeks' time. It really has been a meteoric rise from, I think he'd say himself, sort of, I don't like using the word mediocre to describe a racing driver, but, you know, he was a midfield runner when he first started racing last year and really plugged away hard, did James. And I only use the term mediocre because it is in complete contrast to how quick he is these days. He's one of the quickest drivers out there. I think he's destined for great things, and over such a relatively short period of time as well, that he's suddenly found some pace. And here he is now looking for what I believe will be his first ever victory in a Mazda MX-5, and what a time to do it then. The opening race of the MX-5 Super Series season is won by James Kell, a dominant drive here at the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. He takes the victory. Simon Fleet will come home second, but only just from Joseph Marshall Burks, less than 2 tenths behind him at the flag. And Clive Powell's, I think, will come home in fourth. Yep, there he goes, the silver car in fourth place, with Jeremy Crook hanging on to fifth position. Yep, just going past Jude Worley at the line. So it is James Kell who takes the opening race victory of the season, winning by just under 4 seconds over Simon Fleet, Joseph Marshall Burke, Clive Powell and Jeremy Crook. Matt Pickford was next, ahead of George Grant, Chris Webster, Dale Crowsley and Cameron Thompson. Then it was Russ Lyndsay, Alex Miller, Xavier Brook, Darren Kell and Liz Walton rounding out the top 15. We lost, unfortunately, Bradley Kent, Declan Lee and Sam Bailey were the two involved, or that didn't resume from the red flag incident on the initial attempt to start the race. Hopefully they'll get their cars sorted out for race 2 though, because they should be able to make progress from the back of the grid.
James, a huge congratulations. That was your first ever win.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable. It was a nice drive, so yeah, nice weather and great prep car, so what can I say, really?
Well, obviously you left the last season in the Super Series coming second at Donington, and you've stepped it up a bit. You started on pole, finished on pole. Must be a good feeling.
Yeah, it's always good. I mean, the aim was to try and get on pole this weekend. We had good pace in testing, so just to try and carry that through to qualifying, and new tyres bumped us up a few tenths, so it was, yeah, it was really nice.